This is Popular Front, a podcast focused on the very niche and kind of geeky details of modern warfare with me, Jake Hanrahan. Today we're speaking again to Khabat Abbas. She's a journalist and filmmaker born and raised in Qamishli in northeast Syria, also known as Rojava. And she's going to be speaking about the current Turkish invasion on Rojava and the Turkish-backed militias that are roaming around murdering civilians on camera. One of the civilians murdered actually was a friend of Khabat's. I was going to do a big kind of round table for this episode with analysts and all of this. But I thought, you know what, there's actually something more valuable in just listening to the eyewitness account of somebody from Rojava, and I trust Khabat very much. She's a great journalist, so I think everybody else can just have a listen. Sorry about the sound, it's not great, but you know, Khabat is in Rojava right now, so it is what it is. If you like what we're doing, please support us at patreon.com/popularfront.
Hey, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
I don't know. Fine, let's think.
So yeah, you're in Qamishli right now?
Yeah, I'm in Qamishli. Yeah, yesterday I was in Shazadi.
Okay. So maybe you can start then. It's been like over a week now when the invasion started. You know, you were there when it happened. Maybe you can just go back to like last week and explain what happened. What was everybody's reaction when Turkey announced that they were going to invade?
Actually, the announcement of the Turkish president, Tayyip Erdogan, it was like not a surprise because time to time, all over these last years, they were always like sending threats to attack northeast of Syria. And the people, in a way, didn't take it seriously. In the first when the shelling started, I was in Serikania, and there was a tent for protesters in front of the border, of the Turkish border. And suddenly we saw like there was a jets, and they started to boom. And the population started to, push each other. There was a little bit before that day, some people start to move from the city, but not really like a big influx. But that moment when it happened, everyone started to rush, to push. The cars started to push each other, and people was panicked. They saw that it's not a joke, it's real, and they are airstriking, not even shelling. It was an airstrike in the beginning. On the way, when we just go out from the Serikani, there was ambulances went to the place that the bombardment took place. It was on the border, so we get out of the city. On the way, I didn't know that it's all over the cities. My mom, she called and she said, "Where are you?" I said, "In home in Qamishli." And then she said, "Prepare yourself, we'll be out." I didn't know it. No, what's happening? She said, "You don't hear the bombardment?" And then I realized that it's in Qamishli as well. Then in Derek, then all over the city. Almost last week, it's only the Hasaka city haven't been shelled or airstruck or bombarded. Otherwise, all the cities in northeast of Syria have been attacked. Not only that, the things, as you said, the events too fast. The sleeper cells started to move. ISIS sleeper cells started to move. The population started to. It gets worse. Shelters open it in Al-Hasaka city, basically. All this, usually when the war is happened, usually there is a lot of effect. And all this happened. No one was prepared. Neither NGO, no self-administration, no one. So I don't know exactly. It's a lot of events, to be honest. Now I'm thinking about it. It's too crowded. So maybe we can start it specifically from one field to another.
First of all, we saw a lot of shelling in Qamishli. Kids were dying. You went to the hospital. You saw all these kids. Maybe you can talk about that.
So regarding the injuries, as I said, I was heading from Serikani to Qamishli. I arrived to Qamishli. I went to the hospitals because the injuries started to arrive to the hospitals. The first victims, it was a family, Syrian family, and both couples have been severely injured. Then we received the another families from the west of Qamishli and also civilian, and they were severely injured. For me, it was a shock in a way because when I saw the Syrian man and I talked to him, he was like, "I am innocent, I am civilian, I didn't do anything," and he started to cry. To be honest, whenever I was interviewing those people, I was crying before them. This is my city, those are my population. Even I'm a journalist all over these years. I covered the war. But this time it's so heavy. Even me, I have been displaced because my house, it was like close to the military base, so I have been displaced also. It was too heavy for me also to just pack my stuff. After all these years, we thought that it came over. After all that suffer and pain, it came over. So I went also, I been displaced. All this happened. Next day, there was another shelling, and there is a child named Sarah. She lost her leg. So all this, we went there. I remember Sarah's grandfather. He was looking to me, elderly man, and he was just himself. I didn't have a word for him. He was like, "She's a child. She's a child." And I was just shaking my head. I was like, yes, I can see that. There is nothing, there is no explanation for this. I cannot say anything. All the families were down, everyone, and every day there was more and more injuries, civilian. Basically, the civilian with the heavy cases, let's say, that I met, it was more in Tiltamer Hospital because Serikaniye, it's one of the cities which is more brutal attack. It's on Serikaniye. So when the civilian and the military injuries, they are first came to Tiltamas because it's the closest city. So they received them. It was too crowded. There was 2 rooms for the operation, and it was full, already blood everywhere. People panicked. In the reception area, there was a lot of families. They came and they asking about their children's name. That moment, I was like looking to them. How the father? There was elderly father. He was like asking this name, Muhammad. Did you receive him? Did you receive him? And the guy, he was like, yeah, we received him. We referred him to Hasaka. I could see on the face of the father that he became disappointed because when you refer a case from Tiltamer to Hasaka, that means it's so severe and it's so critical that they couldn't handle it in Tiltamer. It's just the first aid that they referred. I mean, I could see the reaction of the people. We came, last years, more than 7 years, we faced all the kinds of enemies in this region. But this time, always there was something different, which is the morals of the population. Always it was different. This time you can see no one can smile, no one. It's people are just, staring in the emptiness. They are just looking in a nowhere. No one can see anything. You can never we saw these faces. Always there was a determination, there was a motivation, there was a morals. This time the betraying of the Americans, it's really this feeling of betraying. It's hurt us more than the attack of the Turk. Turk already, all the population of this region, they know it that they were going to attack. But betraying of the Americans, this is what no one know about it. No one expected. So the people in shock from the Americans, not from the Turk.
Right, and I think a lot of people forget that. People say, oh, well, obviously the Americans were going to abandon them at some point. But civilians don't think about that day to day, They're just trying to get on with it.
They didn't inform that they were going to withdraw in advance. There was already joint patrols between the Americans and the Turkish, or between Serikani and Tel Abyad. And they forced the YPG in order to destroy all this defense. So the betrayal, there is a level for the betrayal. Even they have a basement in Kobani and different places. They bombardment, they explode everything there, and then they left. Why they didn't handle it to the YPG? Are their layers? Why they are destroying and burning even the armored cars? Why? So there is a level for the betrayal even, But the Americans, they get to the level like the people just more in shock. I cannot express this. People are like just, is that possible? Because you feel like, okay, they will withdraw. They will withdraw, but minimum they will going to leave the ammunition, they will going to leave the armored cars. Minimum, they do things like to show they are respect their alliance minimum. But every day we are discovering a new face from this betrayal. Every day we are seeing a new level of this betrayal. And it's too much. This is what is hardening the military and the civilian.
Yeah. Are there any US troops left, do you know, at any points? From what I saw, it looks like almost all of them are gone.
Yeah, their basement in Kobani, in Manbij, there is the basement of Kobani, Manbij, and Isa. They left. I mean, the west of the Irfet, but the east of the Irfet still they have their basement in Tonico, Haql al-Omar, Shaddadi. Deir ez-Zor and Hasaki governator in a way.
Okay, maybe let's talk about these mercenary groups, these so-called, some people call them Turkish FSA, but, you know, the FSA were real rebels that rose up against the government. Like, these guys, in my opinion at least, are mercenaries, because they're going to fight on behalf of Turkey, not on behalf of Syria. Tell us about them. What have they been doing? Because basically Turkey seems to be allowing them to fight their ground war.
As you said, they're supposed to be FSA, which is Free Syrian Army, supposed to be this army established to defend the Syrian and the freedom of the Syrian. But unfortunately, they became now a tool in the hand of Turkey, and they have been mixed with the jihadists, with the remains of the ISIS. And we are not saying that because we want. I mean, there is evidence, there is photos, there is videos, there is even their slogans, their songs, everything. When they came, it's the same slogans and the symbols of the ISIS. Not only that, they have their hands with the Shahada, and they said it's a Baqiya, and Baqiya, it's a Islamic State, which is it will stay, it will sustain. And this is very dangerous. It's not just about this region. That's meant to everyone to understand that those group, it's not only jihadi, normal jihadi, they are experienced ISIS who have been left and remains, and Turkey kept them and sent them back. Not only that, it proves that are ISIS, the same acts, the same way of approach with the civilian. Basically, they have this approach, since they arrived the second or third day, it was when they implemented this executions against this politician, the head of the party, Khalaf. And you could see in the video how horrible they are. Even they killed her, they didn't stop. They were one of them. He was saying to the others, "Filmed me," and he was shooting on the body of the crops on the ground. So those people are. I don't know. I don't think there is a description for those people. So not only that, they were executing the people from the medical point, the KRC, Kurdish Red Cross, and also I heard that from friends in Tel Aviv, they were like selecting the Kurdish families whenever they passed somewhere or some villages. They were going to select who are you from, where are you, and if they discovered you are a Kurd, they were going to execute you directly on the spot, even if you are a civilian, unarmed, not military. So their acts on the ground already have been published all over the world. They are publishing their videos, and you can see their acts. It's same if it's not worse than ISIS. It's just ISIS, but they came to take revenge.
Tell us about Havrin. She was your friend, right? You knew her well.
Havrin, actually, she is a personal friend of mine. I met her 2015. I worked with her. She is an engineer. She was at that time the co-presidency of the Ministry of the Energy in Rumeland City. I worked there in the media office, and she was next to my office. I remember the first day when I started to work there, so she passed by my office without saying hi. Then suddenly she came back and she said, she apologized. She said, sorry, because always this office, it was empty. I did not say, now you are here. So she brought a chocolate and she put it on my table and she said, you are welcome. She was always smiling, always quiet, always nice, lovely, formal, professional in her work. I don't know, she is always like, when she is around, you can see her charm, her character, it's there. So you will gonna just only try. She was a good listener. She was always like understandable, respecting everyone. For me, the video, it's, I don't know, I can't describe this. She was just civilian politician. She later worked after she worked also with the movement, with the movement of the women in Rojava in a different way, like Congress there. And she worked in this Ministry of the Energy because she was an engineer. Then she later was the founder of the Syrian Future Party, which is the party starting to build this relation with the other ethnicity after the liberation of Raqqa and Deir ez-Zor. And she was always making meetings for them. Even the slogan, or the motto of this party, it's like a Syrian map in a green, and there is a jasmine flower inside. So she was really like that flower. She was always sitting with the Arab, with the Syriac, with the other ethnicities, and trying to explain to them how it's important to support each other, how it's important to coexistence, how it's important to unify in this region, and how it's important to build future for Syria together. She was a hard worker. Even after the shelling started in the region of Rojava, she was still in Raqqa and in NE Syria, and she had been executed horribly by those mercenaries on the way when she was back to the Rojava on NE Syria. So I think that's explain who are those people and what's the background of those people who Turkey are sending against Rojava.
Why do you think they targeted Havrin specifically? Because it does look like this was a targeted assassination. It doesn't look like they just happened to find her, you know what I mean?
It's true, because of many reasons. First, she is a woman. She is an activist woman in the rights of the woman and the community, and she representing the democracy, co-presidency, everything she is calling for. It's anti those jihadis here who just wanna, the same state, Islamic State, that they were already implementing against the woman specifically. So Havrin, she is the sign and she's the symbol of the Rojava. Her character is carrying all the characteristics that's representing the woman hard worker activists for the human rights and the woman rights. Second, she is a Kurd, and those people are targeting because it's in a way glancing, ethnicity glancing. So they are targeting in a way specific group. So they targeted her in order to give a sign or give a message to the Kurd women who already fight against them and defeated them in Raqqa, the YPJ. So it was a message. And the third reason, it's like to the self-administration people, like we are against your system. It's not about against only the military or geographically to take part. It's about the system that you are implementing, the democratic system that you are implementing in northeast of Syria. We are against it. So when they kill Havrin, it's like we wanted to kill the same way, in a horrible way, your system. So I think this is the messages that they wanted to give it to the population here via that act.
Yeah, I think you're right. About what's going on with the YPG? What about the frontline fighting? Very few videos are coming out because obviously they want to keep things quiet. But we know they're still in Serikani fighting Tal Abyad. What's going on?
Actually, as we said, it's so difficult to get information in this operation because of many reasons. First, because the sleeper cells of the ISIS, it's so active and they are cutting the roads. And it's unsafe to move. And the Rojava and northeast of Syria, it's so expanded way. Second, there is air striking, there is a shelling, it's too heavy, and you cannot reach there. It's so risky. Already there is two journalists have been killed there, and there is many of them have been injured. So it's difficult to reach there and get the information and film or work as a journalist in that field, because even there is now a talk about chemical weapons have been used in Serikani. The war, the fighting, it's too heavy. There is a lot of already. There is, the SDF. They are announcing the numbers of the mercenaries who have been killed. At the same time, their fighters who fall shaheed and martyr in this fighting. The civilian on the other side. So at the end, it's not just a number. People are suffering. On all the levels. So it's not about like today how each side lost. In a way, we are losing our young. Already we do that since the years, and now it's again.
Right. What do you make of this new situation where the regime has basically, been given a lot of control over Rojava? Obviously, the YPG have been pushed to this, but maybe you can explain what the deal is, because there's a lot of misinformation, and I guess how you feel about it. You're from these places.
Actually, the people have to understand first, the one of the regions that first started the revolution in Syria, it was like after Daraa, it was in Rojava, in Qamishli and these region cities. It's not like we are like a regime or we are supportive for the regime. No, it's not like that. The idea is like when the regime was busy with the other parts of Syria to liberate it from the other jihadis or whatever, and to oppress his, obsessions. In northeast of Syria, there was already jihadists who attacked Jabhat al-Nusra, FSA, and ISIS recently. So the population of this region, they defend themselves. So when we came now, we see that Turkey wanted to occupy a part of Syria. So it's not became only the duty for the people of northeast of Syria to protect this land. It's a national security. It's a national security for Syria. So it's a duty, obligation in the constitutions from the Syrian government to protect their borders, national borders from the occupators. It doesn't matter whom. And now in this scenario, it's Turkey. So to do this part, it's like their duty. What the YPG or the SDF done, they just tell the governments that you have to take your responsibilities. You have to protect the national border because we already done our parts. We protect this area, and you are always accusing us that we wanted to separate Syria while we don't want. And as a proof of that, we want you to come and to cover all the border. So they asked them to cover the border, even it's still like partially have been implemented in some areas. Internally, even the SDF said clearly, the statement it's just on the border. They will not going to self-administration will keep functioning inside this, the Rojava and the other areas. Plus, let's take in consideration, even though the Syrian regime will be on the border, that doesn't mean internally maybe they will be fighting between the SDF and the regime internally. So on the external level, they will take the border. They have to protect it because it's a national security. But internally, between the self-administration, if the regime in Damascus, they didn't like it, maybe in future there will be also clashes or fightings or disagreements between them. So the agreement for now, it's just a current memorandum. It's not long-term projects or agreement, and even it's not agreement. It's just understanding memorandum currently for specifically this situation. And it's, as we said, it's just for this situation currently. And then regarding the other, I met some people, I met some people who are already have been in demonstrations against the Assad, who have been already fighting against this regime. All of them said, for sure, we are trusting our management, we are trusting the SDF, but at the same time, we trust them that they will not gonna deliver us to the regime, and we will not accept it because we didn't fight in order to back under the umbrella of the regime again. The idea, we have our self-administration, we are selling ourselves, we want our autonomy. The idea of their separating on the border, if it's going to protect us from the occupators, from the Turk, for sure we'll accept this. But otherwise, to come and take over all the self-administration, neither of the population nor the SDF, none of them announced it or they show any acceptance for that.
Sure, but it's still quite sad to see, a regime, for example, like entering Kobane. And how do you feel about that? After years of escaping all of their, the authoritarian ways of the regime, to now even see them on the border, how does that make you feel?
Actually, maybe it will be so weird for the people to hear this. For me and the people who have been oppressed by the regime, for me as a Kurd woman, I have been twice fired from my jobs just because I'm a Kurd. I have been in many occasions oppressed just because and I was all over these years in my region. I didn't live. Maybe if I told you this is the worst moment for me, people were going to say, no, ISIS is worse. ISIS is jihadi. Turk are our enemies. But the regime, already we started all this revolution against the regime. For me, when they said, to be honest, I couldn't stop crying for 2 days. I was until now I'm saying, if the regime came over, and hopefully it will not, but if the regime came over all this region, for sure I will gonna leave. Even I didn't think to leave. Now the Turk attack, I didn't think to leave when the ISIS attack. I didn't think to leave when the Jabhat al-Nusra attack. But now when we say the regime will came over all this region, for sure I will leave. It's not about the regime itself, about the mentality. It's about the dictator mentality that has been implemented and is implementing in the other regions of the Syria still. So after all this revolution, I think we deserve it freedom and we deserve it our rights as a Kurd. If the regime will came and want us to back to the square, for sure, neither me, neither a lot of people who started this war, they will be able to stay here. And this is one of the worst and saddest moment in my life, and specifically in all over these years of the war.
Yeah, it's horrible. How about today, literally 20 minutes before we just spoke, America has come out with this, there's a ceasefire. I read it quickly. It doesn't look like a ceasefire. They basically said that YPG has to remove themselves from this so-called safe zone that Turkey wants to implement. And then basically YPG, a spokesman, has said, no, we're not going to. So in my opinion, it looks like they're going to then frame it as, well, YPG are the aggressors. They had time to move, but why should they move, you know? What do you think about this ceasefire? I don't even want to call it that because I don't want anyone to get the wrong idea. But, you know, what do you think about it? What are people saying on the ground? I know you said there was a lot of celebratory gunfire, but it seems a bit premature.
As I already mentioned before, the Americans, they betrayed the court, but there is every day they are showing us a new face of this betrayal. The announcement that it's agreement, but it's not. And YPG denied that, and they said we already to withdraw to 30 kilometers. It's rejected. Aldar Khalil, he announced that, and he published that it's rejected, so it's not accepted. Yeah, they could need a time, the YPG specifically, because the heavy weapon that the Turk, who is one of the NATO members, using against the Kurds, they have been in Tel Aviv, in Sarikani and in Tel Aviv, in a very critical situation. Even today, there was a lot of injuries, civilian and military, in a hospital in Sarikani, and the mercenaries, they were trying to surround that and destroy the hospital fully. So we needed the humanitarian corridor in order to evacuate the injuries. I do understand maybe they need a time to rebuild again the front lines, but at the same time withdrawing, I don't think it's a good idea, because whenever withdraw, like what happened in Afrin, never you can get it back from the Turk and those mercenaries. So either we will gonna resist or we will gonna die, all of us. There is no solutions. If we will gonna deliver the places or any place to them, it will be next the other place, because they will not going to stop it. If, for example, they now talking about between Sarikani and Tel Aviv, even if the YPG or the SDF said like, okay, we're going to give it to you, next it will be Kobani, after it will be Qamishli. They will not going to stop it. We give them a time, we give them a space to move between all the cities here. I don't think it's a good idea, and I think we have to continue as we are, fighting all over the war, all over the border, because the front lines, it's expanded, not as Turkey expected. They will going to just focus it in one place. It's starting from the Derek to Kobani, so it's around 750 kilometers all over the border. And the Turk, even it's like more than a week, it's passed. They couldn't make any progressive or any developments in the front or make any advance. Even they have using the airstriking, shelling, heavy weapons, all that, thousands of these mercenaries, their army, all that, but they couldn't make any, noticeable advance in the front lines. So this is also show how the SDF are ready for that.
Yeah, like, to be honest, when the airstrikes aren't hitting, the Turkish-backed mercenaries don't seem very effective, you know. They seem to be, I don't know, there's some reports that they've been retreating. I've even seen footage where YPG have taken one of the APCs off of them, a Turkish APC. Like, they don't seem to be doing that well without the airstrikes.
Exactly. My friends, they are in the front lines, and all of them said if the airstrike is no-fly zone, and this is one of the main things that the Kurds keeping asking the Americans. We just need no-fly zone, otherwise even the troops, the weapon, it's not unfair between both groups if we compare administration to the Turkey as a state, even though they said just give us no-fly zone and you will see, we will gonna manage to resist, we will gonna fight, we will gonna struggle in the front lines. But even though they didn't stop, because they know deeply that their mercenaries and their soldiers will not gonna make any advance without the airstriking. It's the only way in order to keep them in the front lines. Otherwise, all of them will gonna withdraw. And there is some videos where while there are hundreds of them withdrawing, because in a way, look, we have to understand, those people are mercenaries. They are fighting for money. They don't take principles or beliefs. It's just about the money. They are paying them. Because of that, they are fighting. But when they are saying how the others are killed, their friends or the people that came with them, they all became more afraid, and they feel like, why I'm fighting this? And they wanted to withdraw, and the Turk not allowed them. Even yesterday, there was a moment that the Turk closed the gate behind them in Sarikani, and they stuck in front of the YPG, because the Turk know it that if they did, they will gonna all of them withdraw. So this as you said, the airstriking, if it's stopped, for sure it will make a lot of change on behalf of the SDF. Because those fighters, they are fighting for their lands, their homeland, their project, their beliefs. Those people are fighting because they believe in this. It's more valuable for them to fight for what? It's not. They are fighting on behalf of themselves and their population and their families. They have a power. They have a power of determination and motivation. While the mercenaries, what they have, just only paid by money. So the money, it's not. You cannot say, buy a life.
Yeah, definitely. How about, you've been doing a lot of work in the hospitals. Maybe you can talk about the kind of injuries you've seen. I know, like you've said it before about the children are dying, but maybe you can just go into a bit more detail about the injuries. I think it's important.
The injuries that I saw, as I said, the first day it was the Syria groups and the two families from the west of Qamishli. All of them have been, it was shelled, it was mortars, and most of the cases it was a civil because of the fractions. I went to the places that have been shelled, all of them civilian, and they didn't have any military bases next to them, even though the Turkey said, I'm attacking the military, and it was not true. I documented all that. I went to Al-Hasaki hospital as well, Abdul Tamar hospitals as well. The cases of recently, it's more sensitive and critical, let's say. Basically, as I mentioned before, there is a doubt and suspicion by all the doctors that there is using of the chemical weapon. And now I called even Kurdish Red Cross friend, and he said we send samples to KRG and we will gonna test it and to prove that if it's a chemical or not, because they said there is a kind of scars and burn, it's not normal. He said we'd never see this and we don't know what it is. It's so weird and it's burning all the body, it's all the flesh. It's the body itself, it's making holes and scars, and it's not usual. As I said, it's a civilian, and what hurt me, it's like children, basically, women, pregnant women, they were there. Even some people are disabled, even though they became injuries because of the fractions. Even the people who haven't been injuries, I met many of people, they have attack, they have a shock, and in a kind of PTSD. I met the neighbor of those Syrian family, there was two men next to them, and they couldn't, even after the events or the accident which happened, after that 2 days I met them, and they were completely shaking and cannot stop crying, and they were saying we have to move, but we don't know to where. It's a kind of psychological injuries. It's not about we are talking injuries. People have been, even the children who saw this, they were crying, they were shaking, they cannot sleep, the sound of the shelling. All this, it's a kind of injuries, but we don't talk about it. We just saw the hospital's injury. In the hospital, as I said, it's full of blood, it's full of tension, it's full of people crying, it's screaming of the pain. It's a scene you cannot describe it even really. You just get depressed and wanted to be out because you cannot see how the humans, why happened to those people. They are just either housewives or children or elderly people. And why? They are paying the cost of what? For what reason?
I don't know, for Trump to basically have some kind of business deal in Turkey, it seems. Yeah. What about the ISIS stuff? We've seen that Turkey shelled the I think Jerkin prison in Qamishli where the ISIS prisoners were held. 5 of them escaped from there. We're hearing that people have escaped from NE Syria. They even shelled the Kobani ISIS prison. What's going on there? Are they trying to free them to cause problems? What do you think?
Even before this attack happened, self-administration high officials, all of them were always warning the Americans, the Europeans, all over the world that please, let's find a solution for this because we cannot hold these prisoners. If anything happened, we will give a priority to our front lines to protect our population. We will not going to just only stop and guarding this ISIS. And unfortunately, no one took this warnings in a serious. And this is what happened. In the beginning, when the shelling started, usually in the prison and in the camp, there was a special forces expertise who are handling the anti-terror, guarding those people who are very dangerous in the camps and in the prisons. Unfortunately, when the shelling started, After in the second or third day, they withdraw these forces. They send them to the front lines, and it was they have been replaced with the normal guards, like locals, and some of them maybe they are pro-ISIS, some of them they are not expertise to deal with them, even though they have to, so they replaced them with the normal police in the prison and in the camps. What happened? The women in the camps, they have been in communication with the Turk and with the ISIS in the other side. So there was a plan between both of them, and all the movement that happened, it was already planned. For example, the NE Syria camp, I have a friend, I communicate with them on the ground, and how it happened. The mercenaries, they came, there was some sleeper cells, so they helped them to come across the Turkish border to enter the Syria in some way. Then they arrived to the M4 highway. After that, they moved gradually to close to NE Syria camp. They didn't came to the Rojava side. They moved to the NE Syria camp. So already they have a goal in order to, they have an aim to release those women there and children. So they moved there. Before they, my friend, he said, we saw them 4 kilometers behind the camp in the west of the NE Syria. Before they attacked, there was already shelling from the Turkish territory. They started to attack, to shell the camp. When they shelled the camp, there was a chaos, the mass. Everyone started to panic, everyone ran. Then the mercenaries came and they evacuated those families. And the families fled for sure. And the IDPs and refugees after that, they fled. But what make it this very clear, it's planned. The ISIS wives, when they planned, when they fled, they didn't flee directly. What they done, they burned all the self-administration, the management of the NE Syria camp, they burned everything, the documents, everything. So they know what they are doing. They know that they don't want any evidence or any information about them to be left in the management. They burned everywhere. Then they left. Not only that, in the second day when the Turkish started to send mortars and shell the Qamishli, they shelled Cherkil and Navkure prison, which is very close to the border. It's like less than 1 kilometer. What they didn't shell inside the building. They shelled the gates, and I saw that. So they shelled the gates, and it's a sign like why you are shelling the gates, why you don't shell the building itself. So they don't want to kill them, they wanted to release them. And unfortunately in Navkures and in Turkey, they already have been 5, they fled, and the others have been arrested. In the video it's showing it's not just 5. I asked about that, and the guards told me they managed to arrest the rest, just only 5 managed to flee. In Al-Hasaka prison, which is holding around 1,000 to 2,000 ISIS locals, also there was a sleeper cells. ISIS sleeper cells. They put a car next to the prison in order to collapse the wall and allow them to flee. But fortunately, nothing happened, and the guards managed to hold the prison again. But that doesn't mean the risk is over. That doesn't mean everything is over, because there is more prison all over Rojava. There is more camps, and basically like Al-Hol, you know how there is a violent cases, there is a risky women and children, even trained children there. They are thousands. They are not like just hundreds or like Roj, hundreds of them. In Al-Hol, it's thousands, and there is a very critical risk. It's increased day by day and hour by hour. That's also they will gonna manage to release them, or sleeper cells, or the Turk shelling, or bombardment, or airstriking. They will help them, and they will gonna release them. All of this, it's planned. It's not like happened. And there is telegram room for the ISIS wives. There is information have been tracked in that room, and there is information that they are in communication with the intelligence of the Turk, and they are coordinating with them what they're supposed to do and what not to do. They started to make different protests in different occasions, protests in Al-Hol since last week, but even though it's still under the control, but there is no guarantee it will keep.
It's a real mess. Khabat, is there anything else you want to say before we kind of end this? There's so much going on. Like, is there anything we've missed that you think we should mention?
I think The main issue that also we have to highlight it is the humanitarian effect on the population here. There is a lot, thousands of the IDPs all over Rojava, and basically they are displaced to the countryside of the cities or to the main cities like Al-Hasaki, from Tel Aviv, Serikani, and it became overloaded. And unfortunately, the NGOs, the UN, and the others, they are not responding enough to the needs of the population. I visited there, and the situation, it's a very miserable in a way, because the needs, the basic needs of the population, it's not being responded. And the number, it's increased. Even the basic needs, for example, the management of the municipality of Al-Hasaka, he was saying usually in Al-Hasaka city, they are baking every day around 35 tons of the flour. But after this, last week, they started to use 50 tons of the flour. So that's mean the numbers increased double, if not more. And all these thousands of the IDPs, I think the international community and all the NGO and all the UN agencies have to respond to. I mean, it's a human. It's on the ground, and it gets worse and worse every day. There is people are just living in the desert, even though they have been airstriking. So we have to take into consideration that not only the injuries of this impact on the civilian and shelling and all that, also the IDPs issue.
Yeah. All right, Khabat. Thank you very much. Stay safe, yeah, and good luck.
You too. Thank you very much.
Khabat Abbas speaking about the invasion of northeast Syria, or Rojava. Follow Khabat on Twitter. She's active now, posting regular updates from the ground, from the battle, from the hospitals, everywhere. That is twitter.com/Khabat_Abbas, which is spelt KHABAT_ABAS. Twitter.com/Khabat_Abbas. Definitely follow her if you want updates on what's going on in Rojava right now. This episode was sponsored by thedefensepost.com, defense with an S. Check them out for regular updates on the world at war. Also, if you like what we're doing, please do consider supporting us. We've got up to 40 bonus episodes on the Patreon right now. It's basically a whole different podcast, if you like. All Popular Front though. Go to patreon.com/popularfront, or if you want to donate with Bitcoin or a one-off payment or whatever, go to popularfront.co/support, and all the details are there. Also, subscribe to us on YouTube. We've got a new doc coming up soon from Hong Kong. The trailer is already up. It's called Add Oil, on the front line with the Hong Kong protesters, something like that. I can't remember exactly, but yeah. Go to youtube.com/popularfront. Also on the Instagram, we're not yet shadow banned, even though, actually no, what am I about? We're shadow banned to fuck. We're always getting shadow banned, but we're not yet fully banned. So yeah, instagram.com/popular.front. Instagram removes so much stuff from our page. Like I don't know how we're not removed yet, but whatever. At least we're not. But we've got loads of stuff going on there. Have a look, Popular Front aesthetics, all of that. You can see it instagram.com/popular.front, twitter.com/popularfrontco, or you can follow me, Jake_Hanrahan. Thank you very much to the following people on the Patreon: Adam Bergsnyder, Axel Iverson, Azad, Brian McLaughlin, Callum Ross, Chad Walker, Christina Rivetti, Christopher Martin, Craig Miller, Dan Dunham, Daniel Shearer, David Gilmore, Diana Gorvanek, Eloise Larson, Emiliano, Emily Molly, Fletcher Tate, Jack Mayhoff, James from the Discord, Joanne Stocker, Joel Tambusi, Josh, Juan Hernandez, Kay Hardy Roberts, Kyle N. Payne, Lawrence Abrahams, LH, Lika Madik, Margaret Bowling, Moody Al-Rashid, Nate Van Dor, Noah, Ari from the Discord, Patrick Bronte, Peter McCormack, Cubal, Russia Alakidi, Rohan Abari, Ryan Sandercock, Scartoon Music, Sebastian from the Discord, Surushe Hawazi, Stephen Davila, Tom Lochrin, Tony Bin, Vida Provost, Zachary Hinch. Thank you very much. Again, if you want to support us, if you want to see Popular Front keep moving forward, go to patreon.com/popularfront. Bonus episodes, access to the Discord, narrated articles. You know, we put video clips up there. The documentaries go up there before anyone else. You get a lot for very little. I think a lot more Popular Front content. And also, you know, you get to help keep this going because we are 100% grassroots. That is not going to change. Again, thank you very much to everybody who participated in the Popular Front 10K campaign. I've sent out some of the behind the scenes stuff from Hong Kong. There'll be a lot more coming soon. Just let me finish this doc and get a few things out of the way, and then, you know, there'll be loads more. But yeah, thank you very much. It's made a massive difference already. We've got some new equipment, proper Mac to be able to edit with. It's not going to crash every 2 seconds or like burn out because there's not enough space. Camera equipment, all sorts, man. So you will see, actually already you're going to start seeing, you'll see even from the Hong Kong doc, like already the production levels have gone up massively. So the levels are going to get higher and higher. Thank you very much. Music in this episode, the intro was by Home and the outro was by Sam Black, also known as Son of Old. Go to his SoundCloud at soundcloud.com/son-of-old.